Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to take lesson planning, which, let's be honest, can sometimes feel like a total chore, and completely transform it into a highly strategic blueprint for success. I am so thrilled you're here. Think about it. A master builder would never dream of constructing a skyscraper without a meticulous, highly detailed blueprint to guide every single beam and rivet. Yet, so often, people walk into teaching or training scenarios without a comparable strategic design. Well, today we are unpacking the true architectural blueprint of teaching.
So, have you ever stood in front of a crowd completely unprepared? Yeah, we've all felt that sudden sinking panic, at least once, right? Your mouth goes dry, you totally lose your train of thought. Well, as our source material reveals today, a lesson plan is exactly how you build a confidence-boosting shield to prevent yourself from ever going off track. It's the ultimate antidote to that panic, built entirely through intentional design and thoughtful preparation.
Just think about the extreme emotional and practical contrast here. Winging it, that inevitably leads to a chaotic mind, nervousness, and just deep professional insecurity. You're basically crossing your fingers and hoping for a happy accident. But on the flip side, structured lesson planning fundamentally guarantees fixed goals and systematized learning. When you've mapped out exactly where you're starting and where you're headed, you gain this unshakable confidence. You can actually face the room and command the space without breaking a sweat. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover 1. The power of planning, 2. Herbart's theory of learning, 3. The 6-step lesson plan, and 4. Jackson's 3 teaching phases. Let's jump right into it. Section 1. The power of planning as a tactical solution. You know, a lesson plan doesn't just box you in or delimit your work. It actually acts as a profoundly liberating framework. By systemizing the learning process ahead of time and making sure all your materials are perfectly prepped, you completely bypass the danger of going off track. Plus, it completely overcomes teacher insecurity and frees you from the trap of needless, unstructured repetition. And this gives you a massive gift, mental bandwidth. With the logistics handled, you suddenly have the freedom and honestly the presence of mind to introduce truly engaging, thought-provoking questions to your learners. Moving on to Section 2, Herbart's theory of learning and structured teaching. Let me introduce you to the philosophical architect behind structured teaching, German philosopher and educator John Friedrich Herbart. The crucial concept to wrap our heads around here is his apperceptive mass theory. Herbart brilliantly framed the student's mind as an essential clean slate prior to instruction. Fundamentally, all new knowledge has to be provided from the outside. Because the learner is starting fresh in this specific context, they can't just make leaps of logic entirely on their own. They absolutely require a direct, highly deliberate link between what they already know and the new stuff they're about to learn. Take a look at this foundational principle from our source. If new knowledge is imparted by linking it with the old knowledge of the student, it may be acquired easily and retained for a longer period. I mean, this isn't just some neat theory. It's practically the bedrock of cognitive psychology in the classroom. If you want maximum retention, you literally have to be the bridge that safely walks the learner from their old, familiar knowledge over to the exciting, new, unfamiliar terrain. All right, Section 3. The 6-step lesson plan and its logical construction. This brings us to the micro-level execution. Herbart laid out these 6 distinct steps as a sequential journey. You start at step 1, introduction, and then move steadily through presentation, association, generalization, application, and finally culminate in step 6, recapitulation. It's a perfectly calculated journey that takes you from a completely teacher-centered introduction directly to a student-centered assessment of understanding. Let's break down the first half of this journey. We start with the introduction. This is where you arouse curiosity, motivate the group, and explicitly make that critical link to their previous knowledge. Then we move right into presentation. Here you state your exact objectives and expose students to the new information using strong teaching aids. Step 3 is association. And this is the magic moment. It's where you solidify the learning by linking those abstract new ideas to daily life situations. By citing suitable examples and drawing vivid comparisons, you build that vital bridge in the student's brain, perfectly executing Herbart's theory of tying the new directly to the old. Progressing to the final 3 steps. Step 4 is generalization. Here, you're synthesizing the specific learning material to establish overarching general principles or universal laws. You're basically showing them the big picture. Next is application, where the learners take those new overarching principles and actively apply them to specific, real-world, novel situations. And finally, we hit recapitulation. Now, make no mistake, this is a vital moment of truth. This is where you assess the sheer effectiveness of your lesson plan by asking targeted questions. You are figuring out, once and for all, if the students actually grasp the subject matter you set out to teach.
Which brings us to Section 4, Jackson's 3 teaching phases.
So, zooming out from the micro-level execution of a single lesson, Jackson systematically maps the macro-level life cycle of teaching across this really clear timeline. Phase 1 is the preactive phase, which occurs before class. Phase 2 is the interactive phase, happening during class. And Phase 3 is the postactive phase, taking place after class. Together, these form this continuous, never-ending loop for an educator, charting the entire lifespan of the teaching operation.
Let's dive into Phase 1, the pre-active phase, or the planning stage. The absolute most crucial takeaway here is that the vast majority of the heavy lifting happens in the quiet moments before you ever even see a single student. You're formulating your goals, logically arranging your ideas, heavily vetting and deciding on your teaching strategies. You're making firm decisions on the exact scope of the subject matter and physically developing your learning materials. It's the ultimate intensive preparation phase where the blueprint is actually drawn up.
But once you step into the room, Phase 2, the interactive phase, bursts into action. And this is a highly dynamic environment. You have to size up the class and continuously diagnose the learners in real time. By diagnosing, I mean really reading the room, watching for those furrowed brows of confusion, noting body language, or looking for those aha nods of sudden understanding. Based on that diagnosis, you select and present your stimuli, which is your lesson content, and you provide immediate, tailored feedback or reinforcement. You're constantly pivoting and adapting your prepared blueprint to the live human beings sitting right in front of you.
Finally, the dust settles and we reach Phase 3, the postactive phase. This is your critical evaluation stage. Here, you record student responses, evaluate their performance, and select appropriate testing devices. But most importantly, this is the stage where you evaluate the blueprint itself. You look objectively at what worked, what totally failed, and you figure out exactly how to change or improve your teaching strategies for the next round. It creates this powerful, continuous loop of professional improvement, making absolutely sure your next lesson plan is even stronger than your last.
As we execute our own final recapitulation step today, I want to leave you with this provocative question to deeply consider. How are you going to architect your next presentation so you aren't just speaking at people, but truly transferring knowledge? How will you use Herbart's microsteps and Jackson's macro phases to guarantee your audience actually learns? Well, that's it for today's explainer. Thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, happy planning!